What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. In today's video, I'll be going over 10 build moves that you need to know in Fortnite. These build moves are going to range everywhere from beginner to semi-advanced, and these are going to be moves that you should definitely know if you're trying to win more fights, whether you're playing ranked, public matches, or even tournaments. As I said, this video is going to have 10 different moves. The first 5 are going to be mostly focused on shorter range fights and box fights, and then the last 5 are going to be focused more on build fights. But definitely stick around for the whole thing because there's going to be a lot of good stuff in here. Before we get into it, if the video helps you out, then be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new and want to see more, and of course it's always appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you. It only takes a few seconds to type in, and it seriously does help me out a bunch. But with that said, we've got a lot of techniques to go over, so let's get into it. All right, so here we are in creative, and we're going to go ahead and get into our first build move. Keep in mind that not all of these are going to be only building. Obviously most of them are going to involve both editing and building, but I just call them build moves because they are primarily some form of building. And getting into our first technique, this is going to be a very common one, which is the full box. This one is a pretty intermediate level technique. It should be fairly easy for a lot of you guys to learn, and basically this is just the basic piece control move. It's where you get your opponent fully boxed up and you absolutely destroy them. So all this one's really going to come down to is simply boxing your opponent completely with cones and walls. So you want to start off with a wall in front of you, and typically you're just going to go for the middle edit, or at least you want to do the middle edit just to start so you can see everything. And all the full box really is a cone, and walls all around. So from your opponent's perspective, when you do this to them, there is nothing they can do. All they can really do is look away from you and pickaxe out or shoot out of the box, and by that point you've easily shot them. Now, as I said, there are alternative ways to do this, so you can do it with this wall right here. In fact, I would say that might be a little bit easier, especially because you can have that right hand peek. The issue with using this middle tile right here is the fact that you do have to expose yourself a lot more to get these walls around them, whereas with this you can actually just stand right here, not get shot at, and then you have them fully boxed up. And there is one more variation of our full box that I want to show you guys, and all this really is for when you know your opponent is editing out to the side, like here. Basically, I want to try and have the right hand peek, and all I want to do is just that. So basically, you edit through, you have this right hand peek, you place your cone, wall. Alright guys, so getting into our second technique, and this one is called the protected edit down. This one is a fairly simple technique for you guys, and it's basically a box fighting technique that allows you to push an opponent from the top and get a safe peek on them. So starting off this technique, you obviously want to take their floor and cone. Now all you got to do for this technique is edit the 2 tiles closest to you on the cone and on the floor, and then you're immediately going to place a wall in front of you, and you're going to go for the middle edit like this. And then if you want to, for good measure, you can also try to sneak in a cone down there. As you can see, that's actually possible. And then from here, you have this absolutely beautiful peek on your opponent. So getting into our third move for this video, and this one is going to be laughably simple, honestly, and this one is known as the basic cone slide. So you're going to want to start off, obviously you're pushing a box here, and you're just going to post up outside of their box however you want to. I typically like to do this just standing on a ramp, and all you're going to do here is you're going to take this wall like you normally would, and you're going to do whatever edit you want to do, and you're simply going to immediately slide a cone inside their box. From the opponent's perspective here, obviously they have their builds around them, but to get away from you, they have to fully edit out, and by that time you're going to hit them with a big shot. This is also something you can do from the side. If you set up on the side of their box, you simply edit through like that. But overall, however you decide to do it, getting that cone inside of somebody's box is so important, and it's really important to practice just getting that in a fluid motion. So getting into technique number 4 for this video, and this one is going to be a little bit more advanced. This one's known as the cone tunnel. So this technique is basically a really good way to set up piece control when you're on the same layer as your opponent. So you're going to want to start off just in a regular tunnel, however you want to be. And basically what we're doing with this tunnel is we're coning in front of us, and then we're blocking it off with a wall. So once again, there's basically 2 variations of this move. One is where you actually get the cones in the box in front of you, and then you edit through like that. And the other one, and the simpler version, is basically just a cone in the box that you're in, like this. In terms of going for piece control, I do think the best way is to get the box in front of you, but once again, it is going to be however you want to do it. The only downside with this technique is that you're pretty exposed from the side, so you want to make sure that you're actually going towards your opponent while you're doing this and not just doing this for fun in the open. Alright guys, so getting into technique number 5 and our final technique for the box fighting section, and this one is the ramp cover tunnel. So this technique is actually a pretty simple one fundamentally. It's basically just a tunnel where you ramp above you. Basically, all you want to do here is you're going to be tunneling, and you're going to place ramps on top of you between each tunnel, just like this. So essentially all we're doing is we're doing our floors, our walls, and then as you get towards this wall right before you edit, you want to place that ramp above you, immediately press your edit button, and then go through. So the purpose this really serves is that if your opponent is trying to pressure you, say they're on top right here or something like that, it gives them a lot more obstacles that they have to shoot through. Obviously, even with wood, they still struggle to get through it. Although it's not as covered from the back, it also does create a very big barrier. If somebody's on the same level as you, they have to shoot through all this. They're probably going to run out of ammo before they get to you. So with that said, guys, getting into technique number 6, and this is going to be our high wall side jump. It's a very simple technique fundamentally, but it is really hard to get down. What you're basically doing here is you're going to have your cover above you just like this. Doesn't really matter what situation you're in as long as you have a cone and floor. And what you're going to do is side jump, and you're going to flick up and then flick right back down. So we're going to try to get 2 walls up here and then catch ourselves on the floor and ramp. So it's going to look something like this. So as you can see here, I'm on my ramp and we actually got 2 layers right here. Getting into our next technique though, and this one is called the high wall Wipo cone. So as you probably know, the regular Wipo cone is a pretty basic technique. You wrap walls around you and you get the cone behind you. But what this technique does is it actually sets you up in a much better position to go for retakes or basically whatever you want to do. So for this technique, we are literally just doing a regular Wipo cone except with a high wall. So it's going to look something like that. You may have to kind of stop in your tracks to get it at some points, but if you can get up and get height really fast afterwards, it doesn't really matter. So if I'm the opponent right here and I'm trying to chase you, this puts me in a weird spot because I have this wall right in front of me. And as you're building up, I basically have to make my decision as to how I'm going to continue to go up. And overall, it just sets you in a really good position. And if they're a bit lower, if they're on like the same level as you right here, oftentimes your opponents actually can get up to here and be really confused as to what to do next. Oftentimes, this actually stops them in their tracks. And even if it stops them in their tracks for like a quarter of a second, that can be enough time for you to get up and get height. All right, so getting into technique number 8, and this one is going to be called the cone flip. This one is a pretty common one, and it basically allows you to kind of sort of 90 in place, if that makes sense. So I'll start off with the simpler variation. All we're really doing here is putting a cone on top of us. We're editing it and immediately wrapping walls around, and then simply editing through. So that's the simplest variation of the cone flip, just like this. Now, another variation that's pretty hard is if you do it with a floor, just like that. And another really difficult way to do it is actually doing it in place over and over again. As you can see, even I struggle with that. So with that said, getting into our next technique, and this one is fairly simple. This one is the ramp flip. So really, there's not too many situations where you're going to do ramp flips over and over again. Although technically you can, you would basically just do something like this. Just over and over and over and over again. You would ramp in the same direction, flip it just like that. But as you can probably tell, it's not the most efficient way to get up. So typically when you're using this ramp flip, it's going to look something like this. You're building up, you're doing your thing. All of a sudden you wrap these walls around you, go for your ramp flip and build up. So with that said, guys, getting into technique number 10, and this is going to be our double high wall. So this technique is probably one of the more advanced ones in this video. It's basically a way to confuse your opponent with your high ground retake and go from a bit of a different direction than they're expecting. So you're going to want to start off by doing a regular high wall, just like we did earlier, except you don't want to land on top of your ramp. You just want to land on top of a floor. So it'll look something like this. And then from here, basically what you're doing is you're jumping out to the side and going up this way. Now, you probably won't get this every single time, but in a perfect world, you want to get that high wall there. You want to get both walls here and the ramp above and below you. So this is just going to provide so much cover because you have that ramp above. They can't shoot you from above. They can't shoot you from over here. And basically, this sets you up in a really good spot to take height. And what this does, contrary to the typical high wall, is it basically helps you switch directions. So not only are you going to be going in the direction of your opponent instead of away from them, which sets them up for a really confusing situation, but you're also going to have so much opportunity here to go different directions from even where you're going. So you could even do like a ramp flip here if you wanted to, just like our last technique, or you can jump out even further to this side and then go up. And overall, this double high wall sets you up for so many really good situations. I would say this is not a super difficult technique to learn in terms of just being able to do it. The real hard problem is being able to get it smoothly, consistently. As you can see, I messed it up there. But being able to get your high wall down and get this and those ramps all in a fluid motion, it does take some time. But hopefully with a decent amount of practice, the intermediate to advanced players out there can probably get this down pretty quickly. But with that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for our 10 build techniques. The biggest piece of advice I can really give you guys in terms of learning all 10 of these techniques is simply to do them over and over again. I recommend you pick one technique at a time that you want to focus on specifically. You really get that technique down, you learn it as best as you can, and then you move on. You can even do these as part of your warm-up. For example, when you're free building or something like that, you spend some time just practicing a couple of these techniques. Whatever you want to do, but overall, hopefully these techniques help you out. And with that said, let's wrap up this video. Well, with all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on 10 build build moves that you need to know in Chapter 4 Season 3. Overall, we did cover a lot in this video, but hopefully, if you take some time to practice all these techniques, they should help you dramatically in terms of winning more fights and just becoming a better player overall. If you found the video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to this channel if you're new and want to see more, and of course, it's always appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free and it does help me out a ton. And lastly, guys, let me know if you guys want to see more of these technique type videos in the future. These do take a little bit more time to research and kind of plan out, but I'm more than happy to do it if you guys want to see more of it. But with all that said, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.